Hey everybody, welcome back to the Live Ultralight podcast powered by Outdoor Vitals. Today we are going to be talking about a brand new product release that has just come out here at Outdoor Vitals. So this is a product that I am exceptionally excited for. I don't know what the response is going to be, but I can tell you this. My estimation is that people maybe aren't going to be thinking this is the product they were needing, but it is the product they were needing. That's like how I feel about it. That's how it was for me, at least. So I am stoked to release this product and just talk through all the details, all the stories about what it took to get this product to where it's at and to ultimately being ready to ship to you guys. So today, Brigham, we're going to be talking about the Skyline Trail Joggers. So
yeah,
how you doing today, Brigham?
Doing well. It's beautiful, beautiful late spring day.
Yeah.
Great day to talk about gear.
Yeah, I think the change in temperatures definitely has it's been changing all through spring, but like it feels like full summer mode now. And so I'm definitely starting to feel like it's time to go to the top of the mountain and do some camping and get to higher elevations and just, go see some of the country we haven't been able to get into very efficiently or effectively for a lot of months.
Got to wait for some more snow to melt, but we're getting
There's
close.
a lot of roads up there still closed, yeah.
Getting close.
I said it made me feel like that, not that it was still ready
You're
for
right.
me.
It definitely feels like that. Definitely feels like that.
So we started thinking about some fishing, some hiking in areas. It's like, that to me feels summer-esque. And it's in the air, and I'm definitely excited for it. But yeah, today we've got a product that's been in the works for over a year. Spent a lot of time and a lot of miles in these joggers. And to be honest, when this was a piece that, like, from my side of the equation, I had seen people hike in joggers. I thought they were interesting. But I don't know that we had a conversation really before I just saw you developing a pair of joggers, and I was like, man, that's perfect. And so, what made you originally think of, hey, I think we need to build a pair of joggers, and why was there a gap in what was maybe already available in what joggers were out there?
Yeah, it was interesting. I kind of just, really, it was like a single evening at home, kids were probably getting ready for bed, and I was perusing, YouTube videos about backpacking and watching people's gear lists and stuff like that. Those are typical things that a guy like me does. But really, it's just to get into the minds of people that are getting out there and going on lots of backpacking trips. That's why I do that. But one night I just kind of had watched a few videos of people and their style of hiking, and and they're wearing shorts, and we've got the Skyline Trail shorts, but just watching some of their commentary as they were exposed to certain weather conditions in their shorts, and then kind of seeing the same thing with people in some pants, and also watching some of those same people in their videos wearing something that was more like a jogger, and then kind of just a bunch of things clicked all at once where I thought, like, I came to work the next day and basically put down an initial design on those joggers because I wanted the feelings and all those dots that I was connecting the night before to just get put down on paper, like now, and then start making prototypes, because I just saw these gaps, and it was just kind of a light bulb moment of thinking, like, there's a need for something out there between shorts and pants that just has as many of the benefits of shorts and as few of the drawbacks of pants as possible for these guys that are, doing maybe high mileage, light and fast type backpacking trips, to where they just didn't want to deal with the traditional hiking pant.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about like what the the drawbacks are and the needs, right? So I mean, maybe I'll just start with shorts in specific, and then I'll let you talk a little bit about pants. But for me, when I think about like issues that we've had with shorts, right? We've got some pretty good examples of being out on trails when the weather can swing is such a drastic amount that your shorts go from being perfect to being like not nearly enough protection and coverage from cold winds, just elements, hail, snow. We got snowed on and in the summer months and all sorts of things like that, where it's just like the swing can be so fast and so rampant in the mountains, right? Like mountains create so much weather, and the bigger the mountain is, the more weather it creates, right? And so there's lots of opportunities for just massive swings. But as someone, for myself, like I have learned over time that I have to have the breathability that like a short can offer, or else I just make a huge issue for myself on these, especially these faster, lighter trips, with output and trying to keep myself hydrated and sweat output and all these kinds of things. So it's like I kind of have to deal with shorts most of the time, or at least I had to before, because I needed to keep myself cool as best as I could. But there was absolutely times when weather would come in and things like that where it was a big deal. Or we've seen lots of people. There's guys still in our office that just refuse to hike in shorts because they don't like things brushing against their legs, or they don't like getting dirty, like just tons of dirt on their calves and legs all day long. Or last week I got ripped apart by bugs. I got bit all over. I got such bad bites, which I don't swell up from bug bites, but I got such bad bites that like it inflamed my arm, and then I got a bite on my ankle that inflamed my leg so much that I thought I had rolled my ankle because it was putting so much pressure on my tendons down there. And I probably had 30 plus bites per leg. Not to mention this trail was super overgrown and had scratched the crap out of me. Like people were all of us were pretty much bleeding. It was a really it was like one of our worst trails that we'd ever been on. It was our worst trail that we'd ever been on. And we would not go back, and we ended up pulling the plug on it. And it was a whole thing, right? But like I would have given a lot of money to trade my shorts that day for joggers. Like not saying that these joggers can just handle like absolutely bushwhacking, but I would rather maybe destroy a pair of joggers than like leave scars on my legs, which is what that trail ended up being. Yeah. It was nasty. So, I mean, that's something for my side, at least, like some of the reasons I love shorts, right? But anything to add to that before we talk maybe about like the drawbacks of pants? Because there's some drawbacks of pants.
Well, yeah, I mean, just that it's not, there's just so many use cases where if you have to choose between hiking pants or trekking pants and shorts, and whether they're, kind of like your traditional like cargo short hiking pant turned into a short, or running shorts, at least on YouTube, everybody sees every popular thru hiker in short hiking shorts. But, the huge attraction that a lot of people, you want to use shorts for the comfort aspect and the mobility. And the more miles you hike in a day, the more comfort and mobility you want. So, light, long distance, fast style of backpacking, the shorts are just a really attractive option. And I think, kind of what I see is that we make some compromises. A lot of times, hopefully, we're hopeful that we don't have to suffer through a snowstorm or a hailstorm or massive wind, or, we hope that everything will be great because we feel like the shorts, just the benefits outweigh the drawbacks, and sometimes they do, but when they don't, it really becomes a negative, if not a kind of dangerous situation. And then that's where I saw a huge need for the trail jogger that we're releasing. But I mean, let's go on to pants.
To talk about pants too. Like there's and I do want to throw the caveat out there. I'll continue to have times when I hike in pants. I'll have continued times where I hike in joggers. I'll have continued times where I hike in shorts. There's absolutely times and places for all of them. As a human, like we don't have big, thick fur and stuff like that helps us regulate, and so we we regulate ourselves through technical apparel, and I really believe that technical apparel can make or break trips sometimes, but it also just is so empowering and so comfortable, right? And so you get to go out there and spend time in these wild places so little that it's like this is one way that we can control maximizing those experiences. But talk about pants, like we have some amazing pants. A lot of pants, like really good pants, they're gonna have vents, and they're gonna be shaped in a way that's still like as conducive of movement as possible. Some of them are gonna have a little bit heavier fabrics, lighter fabrics to help with temperatures, just different things like that. But the drawbacks always were that even like our Sawtooth pants, which are really on the lighter side of pants, like as far as just a total weight, like they're 13 ounces, I want to say, plus having 2 vents in them. Like we can't, I don't think I've ever hiked a 20-mile day in our Sawtooth pants. They're just too warm, essentially, by the time you're moving that quickly all day long. They're going to accumulate too much sweat, and they dry incredibly fast. But like, it's just kind of besides the point. Like you're asking too much out of what that piece is. And then mobility-wise, big gusseted crotch and things like that. Like they have a lot of movement in them, but there's no comparison to like shorts, right? And so, depending on what the trip is, you've seen us go to a lot of shorts, and those are some of the big drawbacks I have. Is just temperatures and mobility. There's definitely times when they're phenomenal because the wind picks up or starts to rain or sleet or snow, and they are really quick drying, but like still to dry out a fabric that's about twice as much weight is, there's just that much more area to hold on to the water. And so, yes, they're incredibly quick drying for what they are. I mean, off the charts quick drying for what they are, but they're just a heavier fabric.
I think, and another thing I think between let's just say shorts and pants to make it easier, shorts and pants, I think where the drawbacks are magnified and probably the benefits are also magnified so I think the drawbacks are magnified in between seasons, shoulder seasons. And the benefits are most easily recognized in the polar seasons, winter and summer, right? So it's like, most of the time in summertime, shorts are going to be fine. Most of the time in wintertime, pants are going to be the right choice. But it's the gaps that like I feel like is where you get so much usability out of the trail jogger, because it's going to do so many of the things well that shorts do in the shoulder seasons that you might not want to wear shorts because it's still going to be freezing. It's still going to be really cold. You're going to get more precipitation and vice versa. Like there's going to be shoulder seasons where, depending on where you are, now you are going to be a lot warmer. And because of that warmth, you're planning a longer trip where you want more speed, more mobility, and the comfort that maybe pants just can't offer. So I feel like that's kind of where you really start to draw out the benefits of having this, the joggers available as an option. And then there's still so many times on those polar seasons that the joggers have solid applicability.
Like we say, shorts most of the time might work in summer months, but I think there's something that we'll wrap back to when we start talking about the weight compactability of these and versatility of these, because there's times when we've been hit by crazy weather and it would have been like, oh yeah, for sure want a jogger. But there's also just like times of day when you're at high altitude, the temperatures can swing so much that, like we're not like, I've never told anyone to bring 2 pairs of pants on a trip. And I probably never will, probably. But like a pair of shorts and a pair of joggers, there's enough ways to use them and sleep in them and other things like that it's a real consideration, right? And so, and I think I guess we've kind of covered some of the drawbacks, right? And I think people are pretty aware of those. And like I say, I bet there's people that are listening to this right now that are like, I'm a pants guy. Like when I was out hiking the Appalachian Trail, there was a band of people that in the hottest conditions I remember hiking in a while were wearing pants. And I was like, this is insane, right? But like, that's what they did. That's what made them comfortable and feel safe and whatnot. And it makes sense. I mean, sometimes some of those areas, like just tick protection alone or spider protection alone, because I can't even begin to describe how many spiders there are per like square foot out there. But like there's just things where it's like people want pants, right? And so you probably already might fall into one of these categories. But as we go through this, I think we'll significantly help the people that just have to hike in pants.
Yeah.
And we'll give some amazing options for people that are like, I'm a short hiker, because of where this landed. Not building a jogger for lounging, not building a jogger for, just whatever, hanging out or stretching at a yoga studio like that. Like these are specifically trail joggers. That's why it's in the title. And we've done a lot of specific things, fabric choices, venting, et cetera, that are specific to making these excel and work in this environment better than I actually thought it was going to be possible personally. Like when we set out this project, I think that's part of what makes me so excited about this. I think they ended better than I thought they could have from the start. So yeah, just absolutely phenomenal. So kind of built up the issues. Let's talk about initial design ideas. Like again, kind of coming back to the story of like, all right, what did we want to begin to build? And then let's maybe share some testing stories. And, again, by the end, we'll dial in the exact features, what landed, what stayed, what, and why. Right. But, so beginning, like I imagine your goals heading out were, mobility and breathability were probably top of the chart, right?
Yeah. Just a lightweight jogger that had excellent mobility, especially comparable to a pant, but also comparable to shorts. Mm-hmm. I kind of started thinking of this as like a continuation of the Skyline shorts that we already offer, the trail shorts concept, and then just turning that into a long pant. Really lightweight, wanted them very mobile, wanted them breathable, so that they are, holding on to a lot of the benefits of shorts. And mobility and comfort, they almost or oftentimes come hand in hand because mobility creates comfort. Because if it's mobile, that means it's not restrictive. But also these had to be part of the mobility aspect is how they fit and how they're cut, in terms of, how much room do we want in the thigh, the knee, the calf, the hip area. And so that I kind of thought of them, the overall concept was this very trim, lightweight and comfortable jogger, that just filled a lot of the gaps.
Yeah. So, when you talked about like them being lightweight, did you come in with like an idea of what those are? Like I know that we talked really early on about like all right, like we'd messed with some wind pants. We'd purchased wind pants and done some R&D on wind pants and kind of like had that bouncing around our heads. And then I think you were looking at some fabrics and some of these and you're like, man, these can weigh just a little bit more or something and offer a ton. So yeah, like to start out, was there a weight in mind? Was there, just any thoughts related to that?
I wouldn't say there was like a target weight, like, one of our priorities is to make them under, X amount of ounces. But it was, I'd say, being very aware that, okay, on the very crazy lightweight end of the spectrum is like, you can find these wind pants that are, made of incredibly fragile, lightweight fabrics that weigh like 2 ounces. They roll up to the size of a
don't hit a stick
racquetball. But if you brush your wedding ring against it, you're ripping a hole in it. They stick to your skin because they're so densely or coated and or finished in a way where they're calendared to really make them windproof with such a thin fabric. And so eventually they end up just being like almost a plastic bag, but they're very lightweight. So knowing kind of what the ultralight wind pant weighs, knowing what, an athleisure set of knit, baggy joggers is going to weigh, knowing what our Skyline Trail shorts weighs, like I kind of had an idea that, I really wanted to get these, close to the weight of some shorts. Yeah. because you kind of know what, from a durability standpoint and a feature set, where things are going to land. And it was kind of like an evolving number of where just kind of knew that, for not much more than a pair of wind pants, I think we could come up with something that we could use, exponentially more than a pair of wind pants that was just going to check off a lot of boxes for people.
Yeah, I mean, a pair of wind pants, I have had them in my pack. I have used them a little, and they're how to say, they seem like a really cool tool. Like, they seem like it. I've rarely pulled them out and actually used them, and when I have, it's been like I want to get them off as quick as I can too, because they're quite unbreathable and like fragile, right? So it's kind of both sides of that. Like, well, I don't want to wear them too much, or I'm going to break them, or I'm going to sit down on a rock and literally put a hole right in them, or like you get like essentially, especially if you're wearing a pair of shorts, like they just stick to you like a trash bag would.
Well,
right?
like
on wet skin.
And part of the kind of the conceptual part of a wind pant as an isolated piece to supplement what you're already wearing is they have to be able to put on easily and take off easily. So they're generally made very baggy, right?
Yeah,
because you want to be able to pull them up over your shoes and not have to hassle. Maybe you don't want to add the weight or the vulnerability of zippers. Mm-hmm. So they're made a little bit counterintuitively to become a wind sail in the wind. They're meant to block the wind, but generally they're oversized for ease of putting them on and off. But they're made for the wind, and all of a sudden you've got all this excess fabric,
flapping fabric
that just flaps in the wind and catches wind. And I just saw so many, just things that I didn't like about a wind pant as an additional item to pack. And kind of going back to that weight, kind of, an idea of a weight for the piece is like, I guess one of the things I thought of a lot was, well, let's just say this is an additional piece that maybe somebody's going to consider just packing, not wearing on a trip.
Yeah.
It has to weigh like low enough? The weight has to be as low as possible that somebody may actually feel okay about packing an additional piece, like the joggers sitting in a pack.
Yeah. Weight, bulk, all of it.
Exactly. But at the same time, if that's not the case, then they have to be so usable that they can almost apply to almost any backpacking trip. So then because on the other end of that spectrum is, no, somebody doesn't want to pack an extra bottom, right? Mm-hmm. So then they have to be usable to be worn all day for most trips in a lot of wide variety of conditions. So as opposed to packing a wind pant that may not ever get used, and when it does get used, you really are, like you said, kind of like rain pants. Like, you want to get them off as quickly as possible, and you want to delay putting them on as much as possible. Yeah.
That's not to like hugely knock wind pants.
No, not at all.
Because we just kind of knocked our own sawtooth pants and stuff, right? Like, there's pros and cons to all of it. Like, obviously, these pants, these joggers, do not weigh 2 ounces, and you could find wind pants that might be, come in at about that. But so let's talk a little bit then about where you started this. I think naturally it's just easiest to talk about the fabrics themselves and where we came up with the ideas of those. And thankfully, that part of the puzzle was easier for us to put together because we've already built an amazing trail short that we'd tested for thousands of miles, right? So so this pant does utilize, this jogger does utilize the same fabrics as the trail shorts. So if you have a pair of trail shorts and you felt how crazy thin and light those fabrics are, both the mesh, knit breathable sides of it, and then the main face fabric of it, that's going to be the same fabric that is used in this, which is just an absolutely incredible fabric, I have to say. Like, you really appreciate it in the trail shorts, but you even appreciate it more in the joggers because there's just more of it to, I feel like, appreciate and actually get to know it, right? Because it's not like it's a whatever it is, 9 or whatever inch inseam on the trail joggers. So it's a really light fabric. It's also 100% polyester. Mm-hmm. So it dries ridiculously fast. There's no other materials in there making it slower to dry out. And then durability wise, because this, correct me if I'm wrong, this fabric is under 100 GSM, right at 100.
Just under, yeah.
So it's crazy light, right? You're talking about like a 3-ounce fabric, and it for what it is, it's incredibly durable, right? Like this material is lighter than most people's t-shirts. It's actually, like, if you had our Turn tee, it's even a hair lighter per square yard than our Turn, like, ultra light t-shirt. But to have this level of like durability, right? It's woven differently, it's knit differently, and just offers a tremendous amount of durability. So it's an incredible fabric. I mean, what else do you want to say about the fabric?
I would just say, I would characterize it as a very balanced for our objectives. Like, it's very, very balanced. Of course, if we were to use a much or substantially heavier fabric, like, yeah, that would favor durability significantly, right?
Yeah.
But then we lose so many of the other properties or characteristics that we're trying to achieve as much as possible. So I just think it's just really balanced. And, it is nice that we had proven the fabric already through our Skyline Trail shorts. But just, for anybody listening, in terms of doing our due diligence, we made prototypes early on in this fabric, but we also made plenty of prototypes in other fabrics, including heavier fabrics,
yes,
as well. And that's really important because there's just the potential to miss something if we make too many assumptions. Like, oh, we love it in these shorts, so it's probably just going to be just fine in the pants or the joggers. So let's just roll with it. I just wouldn't feel good about bringing these to market like that. But so we did. We did research, and we made prototypes in several other fabrics that were, I think they were all heavier, we just didn't see the balance, right?
Yeah, I mean, I should have brought that up, but yeah, I definitely have 2 different protos with much heavier fabrics, or not much heavier, but definitely heavier. You can instantly feel it. Yeah. And because I remember that was a concern of mine pretty early on. Was like, yeah, it works in the shorts, but joggers are going to take way more abuse, and just some things like that. Like, what do we need to refine a balance point? And really, the answer was no. Like, there really wasn't. This is my stance on it. I didn't have a durability issue with the current lighter weight fabrics, and so then it just became like, this is just heavier, it's just hotter, it's just slower to dry, etc. And so we tested it though. We tried it.
Yeah, for sure.
So it is. I think that's a great way to say it. Super balanced fabric. I will say it's on the light side. I mean, it is incredibly light, but the fact that it still stays balanced is what I think makes it truly incredible.
Yeah, and again, product concept is a very lightweight trail jogger that we're going to want to use, a lot.
Yeah.
A lot for a lot of miles. So that puts some bias into making them lightweight, but then again, for a trail jogger, like you said, it's got to be durable enough to do those miles. Trip after trip. It has to dry quickly. It has to be comfortable. So we came up with, or Brigham came up with the original,
protos, some of the vents and things that we had on them, and just to start out, I actually don't remember on the very first proto or if all of these vents were there, but like, we obviously knew we were going to have the nice big gusseted vent in the crotch. It was like huge, right? It's immensely important, especially when you're hiking bigger mileage and so on and so forth. I mean, you're going to want to gusset that crotch anyways, which to those that don't understand what that means, it basically means you're adding another strip of material through the crotch that it creates a lot of mobility benefits and comfort benefits. Yeah. But then being able to swap that fabric out for a breathable piece obviously creates a lot of venting. I believe we had some kind of event on the side similar to the trail shorts, but I can't fully remember.
Basically, I took the crotch gusset and the hip package from the Skyline Trail shorts and just put it right onto the joggers. Yeah. I did add on the first prototype the same breathable mesh on the back yoke. So that's basically
that was been there the whole time.
Yeah, so that's basically a panel of fabric that sits just below the waistband, kind of above the butt, right? So,
yeah. And if
that was
you're
on the first
watching on
proto.
YouTube, I'll start to show a little bit of the jogger as we describe this. But so we got this initial proto. What do you remember being the first trip we took it on? Like, when did we get the first proto?
It was either late 22 or early 23. I honestly don't remember.
To give some reference to, this has been a faster development. So just keep that in mind. Like that's like
pretty
18 months, and that's a faster development. And that's also with like part of what made this development faster wasn't that we had to do less protos. It was just the speed at which we could get the prototypes done because of fabric abilities and some things like that. So, I mean, there was a lot of. I've got a freaking whole drawer dedicated to just joggers in my house that I need to start cycling through all the protos. But yeah, so I guess I'm trying to just think of like when the first trip was, like full like overnight trip, not just like taking them out hiking locally, not just wearing them. I don't know if I can pinpoint that. But we did kind of do that obviously through spring and in the summer a little bit, and
all of last year, yeah.
And then obviously everyone saw them on the Colorado Trail documentary that we released.
Yeah.
Where
I know we did some desert trips in kind of late winter, early spring. One or two in Zion.
Was there anything big tweaks that we did before we did the Colorado Trail in them? That you can remember any? I mean, I think mainly we had tested the different fabrics through that
testing
time.
Fabrics. Yeah, the first several prototypes were testing out different fabrics, and then the most important tweaks we were making at that point were fit, getting the fit right, and kind of just the overall profile, the taper of the jogger themselves.
Well, let's talk about fit for a minute. Yeah. I think there's probably people out there that maybe somewhat like where me and you both were, which was like, I didn't wear joggers much, if ever.
I had never worn joggers in my life.
Yeah, they have, like, in some ways they maybe have like a little bit of a reputation almost, maybe for especially like slightly older demographic. Maybe they don't adhere to them, whereas like they seem to be like the new trendy thing, and maybe people even are going to think like, oh, Outdoor Vitals like jumped on this trend of joggers, right? But it's so I think it's important we talk a little bit about like how the joggers fit, what the goal is. Like these joggers are not built for look and appeal and you know, just being new and whatever. But like, so I don't know. What do you have to say about that?
It does. You know, some there may be a school of thought out there that would hear my statement and be like, well, that's a dumb move. But I'm going to say it. These were designed and built to be like a tool,
right?
Like just an enabling tool for, like, again, just allowing people to have better experience out there. Aesthetic definitely takes a backseat.
Brigham does not design for aesthetics. One day we will hire a designer that maybe really, really cares about that. I'm just going to say that. So he's speaking his truth right now.
And that's why I said, like, there's validity to, you know, if there's, you know, some things that we do lack or this product may lack. Yeah, it may not be the most fashionable. It's not like we don't care what it looks like, but we're definitely, I mean,
nice thing about
performance first
fabrics,
100% of the time.
Yeah. Performance first 100% of the time. but one of the side benefits of using really nice fabrics is they often look really nice. Like you can tell. Like so,
Yeah, they have.
So we don't have to focus on the look, but they often turn out looking really sharp. So yeah, talk to me about like joggers. So fit wise, first and foremost was like, we're going to do tall inseams for these because, I put these on, I've got like a 34-inch inseam. Like that's like, my goal is not to just show my entire half of my leg here, my ankle, right? And so we do have two different lengths because in these joggers, like it's not necessarily about just showcasing your ankles or anything like that.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So you're saying that we're going to have regular length and then taller length, because if you're taller, you've got longer legs, then they're just not going to work well for you, right? And they're going to probably look silly. So yeah, you're right. So we're going to have a taller inseam option with these.
So we've got a taller inseam. As far as other aspects of the fit, again, our goal is not to make them big and baggy. So we did add an articulated knee on this, which is, you're essentially, I don't know if you call that pleating around the knee to make it so that they're going to bend and fit really well without having to make them big and baggy.
Yep.
The other part about it is you make them big and baggy, and let's say you are starting to sweat in them, your skin will start to stick to fabric, whatever it is, and start to be less mobile anyways, right? So I was actually Will, the new guy on our team, he's a stud, but he busted out some huge wind pants on our last trip that you weren't on, and they were a sight to see. I loved them.
Yeah.
But I actually was thinking about that. I'm like, sometimes having so much fabric actually ends up becoming a binding point.
Yeah, one of my beliefs is that how a piece fits definitely affects its performance. They are associated and connected. But there's this, in my brain, there's this concept of efficiency, and efficiency goes for being efficient with not having fabric waste. It goes with efficiency of energy and effort. So how an apparel piece fits is how I design them is for efficiency, and I would refer to this as being efficiently trim. And what that means is, with all the objectives for this piece, being able to be highly mobile, lightweight, comfortable, block wind, block a little bit of precipitation. Again, going back to the really flappy wind pants, that's not what we want. We don't want excess fabric, because that's just unnecessary drag you're putting on your body every time you step up when you're climbing a hill or something steep. That's drag. When the wind starts to blow, that's drag against your body in the direction you're moving. So I really like the term efficiently trim, because there's not excess fabric, but it's not undersized in any real area of the jogger. So that when somebody does put it on, they're going to feel a sense of room, a sense of breathability, a mobility, without kind of the excess fat, right? Mm-hmm. So that's how I would categorize it.
Yeah, I'd agree.
And that took several iterations to dial in where to add a little bit more room, where to take away more room, and
growing the size of the cuff, different things like that. I would add to this too that one thing that I've dealt with a lot is chafing that occurs when I have too big of a pant or item. So the bigger the item is, the lower it often hangs in the crotch. It's not 100% because every piece can be a little bit different, but and the lower that hangs in the crotch, the more chafing I develop, right? And so there's aspects of that too, like the better this fits, the less likely to add friction and aid in things like chafing. So we work on the fit for a handful of iterations. We test some fabrics. We're getting this, I would say, pretty close, and then we decide, hey, we're going out on the Colorado Trail for 5 days. This is a great opportunity to test this product. Yeah. Let's do it, right? So me and you wear a version of prototypes out on the Colorado Trail. I was thinking on the Colorado Trail we didn't have the side vent, or at least not a full side vent.
We didn't.
Because we went out there, it was very hot.
It was very
like
hot.
The hottest dates, I swear, on the Colorado
it was
Trail
like
on record.
the perfect storm of hot, because I remember kind of the conversation came up with like, we like doing these long hikes in shorts, right? And should we, or do we even want to wear the joggers? And I was pretty set on, like, hey, if we're going to tell people that this has such a broad use case, like they need to be used on a 100-mile hike, not get 100 collective miles, because we had way more than 100 collective miles between the joggers, but a 100-mile hike in the middle of summer. And when I say the perfect storm of heat, it was, because it was like a record heat wave in Colorado and a lot of the West, and which, honestly, that made it even better, maybe less comfortable, because it was so hot. Like, hot is hot, no matter what you're wearing, but I really wanted to kind of do this proof of concept that, it's going to be hot, but how far can we push these in terms of the heat envelope capability of the joggers?
Yeah. Plus, we're doing between 20 and 24 miles a day of hiking.
Right.
So we take them out there, and it was a phenomenal test. It was, to me, I guess my takeaways on it were, we definitely don't want a heavier fabric. We want to add in some additional venting, which for those of you watching is this big side vent. It was like, all right, we do want these to be the absolute most breathable, like anywhere we can, like let's add that in. Like, we both were in agreement with that. Definitely takeaways were like, they're super nice when it cools off quickly at night, and when bugs start coming out, like, it was just, you don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
Legs stayed way cleaner than they ever have on these 100-mile hikes before. Yeah. Those are a lot of my takeaways, I think, from that trip. Yeah.
Sun protection. I'm terrible. We probably have video evidence of this, but I'm terrible at remembering to apply any sunscreen. So, like, my legs and knees and knee pits, they get fried. So that was really nice. But yeah, I mean, you're right. It was very clear that we wanted to increase the breathability, the ventilation of them after the trip. But it was a very satisfying testing ground for the joggers. It proved a lot of things out, that we were on the right track, gave us some pointers as to what to improve, and also gave us in my opinion, like, the confidence to tell you kind of like where the limit is. Like, I don't know that there's a lot of, I don't like to refer other brands, but it just in general, in terms of a brand recommending their product for a certain use case, like, I think it's really helpful to be able to know firsthand, like, hey, this is like kind of the upper limit. I wouldn't say we totally reached the upper limit. We started approaching it in terms of, like, when it was 85 degrees, like 85 degrees with a pack on, hiking,
covering fast miles.
no cloud cover whatsoever, just sun, 85 degrees. And this is at 10,000 feet, covering miles. Like, they're still usable. We can still appreciate a lot of the benefits of having a long coverage pant on, that, and to be able to tell, like, the customer, like, yes, if I would not have wanted to be in trekking pants, I would not have wanted to be in a traditional hiking pant on that trip. There's times, and yes, it would have been cooler, meaning more comfortable with the temperature, had we been wearing shorts, but there was definitely times when the benefits of a long pant would have been appreciated. So, I feel like it's a good thing to be able to say, we've taken them into what I would call hot weather, and we can recommend that there's like a ceiling, but an expectation, because we ran into people on that trail in pants, plenty of people in like traditional hiking pants. They were enjoying themselves, but there's no doubt like it's hot, know.
I would say this about the joggers that I learned from that trip as well, which is, and this applies to a ton of other testing that I've consistently done too, which is just like I could go hours and hours, even a full day, without realizing that I even had the joggers on compared to shorts. Like I'm hiking with two guys with shorts and one guy with joggers, and like mobility wise and just going throughout the day, you just completely forget that you weren't wearing shorts, even in those hot situations. In fact, it wasn't until we almost finished day one, which was absolutely the hottest day, in my opinion, of the trip. We're hiking from lower country to higher country. We're doing nothing but climbing like 5,000+ feet of vertical in the heat. We're getting in these canyons where there's no wind sometimes. Really hot day. I mean, you can go look at the video, like Derek on our team, who usually does pretty well in the heat, I feel like he was like just dripping sweat and he was wearing shorts. And that was like the only day where I got to the very end of the day and I was like, oh yeah, I was wearing joggers. I probably wouldn't have sweat quite as much without these, or I might have felt a little better at the end of the day or something. But like, what I guess what I'm trying to get at with these is they feel so much like a short when you wear them compared to a pant that it's easy to forget. During other testing, which we'll come back to finish this story, but like during a lot of other testing, I've been running a lot in the joggers in the winter when there was any kind of colder breeze blowing and it's 20, 30 degrees out. And I'd get through the whole run, and it was like when I was getting back in my truck, I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm wearing joggers today. Like meaning just the mobility aspect of them was never like, they just fit on so well, comfort wise. They work well enough that I can completely forget that they are joggers. And so like, I think that says a lot to the venting, but also the mobility aspect of them. And that definitely like got hammered home on that Colorado trail trip.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was like a pretty pivotal point. I think that was like that trip in general brought us back. It proved out a bunch of positive things. We decided, okay, we're going to add the side vent just to give it that extra little boost. Which I don't know if it was little or not. Now that we've done it, like it's a substantial vent.
It's noticeable for sure.
And makes a big difference. But it was a really phenomenal test. And then we, made that switch and we're pretty locked in on fabrics by that point and just continued to test it all throughout, the winter. Essentially, we've been continuing. I mean, I've been consistently getting prototypes all through the winter, dialing in, all the smallest little things. And so. I mean, that's like in bulk, that's like the quick story of the development and some unique aspects. But before we kind of just hammer home some of the specifics on the pant and call out the features themselves, anything else that you want to call out in development or story of development?
No, I think that's a pretty good synopsis.
Okay. So let's just kind of hammer through. We can take these joggers here in front of us and maybe we'll just start at the top. So we've talked about the fabric itself. One thing we just haven't mentioned is exactly where all of the vents are. So there's one across the back yoke, which would be like just above like your back pocket.
Yeah.
There is a vent in the gusset, which we've mentioned, and there's a side vent that essentially goes from right underneath the bottom of the pocket all the way down to the cuff. So there is 4 vents in this, which like as we've like been preparing some aspects on this is like, well, they're at least twice as vented as like the next best pant, because most pants have like 2 vents, right? And these have 4, which is kind of a silly thing, but that doesn't even factor in the fact that like the weight of these pants is so much lighter. The main fabric is going to be more breathable. Also, inside of the pocket, we specifically, use the same mesh, more breathable material, so that even the pockets can vent a little bit. Yeah. So venting on this very, very high. The main face fabric we talked about, it's 100% polyester. There is a DWR treatment on this to give it some water repellency that works quite well. Now, we kind of talked a little bit about how it does in weather, right?
Yeah.
Let's like just maybe expand on that really quick before we get into some of these other features.
Yeah.
So to start off, I want to say I think people significantly underestimate the difference of going from complete exposure of skin to any layer of material between you and the wind or you and anything. And so even though this is a crazy light material, huge difference in its ability to block wind, temperature regulate, help you. So like I mentioned, when I'm out there running, sometimes out there running, it's 30 mile per hour winds and it's in the 20s and I'm comfortable as can be just by taking that slight edge off of the wind hitting me. So it is substantial and amazing how much even just this thin of a material makes a difference in the weather.
Yeah, and I would say it feels more heavily biased when we're talking like heat loss versus in warmer weather. So to kind of describe the situation of like, man, I brought it up in the office. There was a trip I went on when I knew I planned on doing 1 or 2 runs on this trip in the morning. It was in the wintertime. And I planned on taking my joggers because I knew the temperatures in the morning were going to be in like the mid-teens. But I still needed to run and exercise. So I planned on taking the joggers, but when I got there, I realized I'd forgotten to pack them. So I just ran in my Skyline shorts. And I mean, yeah, what you said is spot on with the exposure to that amount of skin. And I just remember being done and my kneecaps just being completely numb. Whereas in the same temperatures, I've gone out running with the joggers and it's almost like just perfect, just the perfect amount, because really you just need enough to block the exposure, block whatever wind is taking effect and taking the heat out of your body. So it's much more noticeable, the benefit with cold and that dynamic, and it just doesn't seem to be as substantial when it comes to heat. I'm not suggesting going and running in like mild weather or warm weather. Like, don't do it. But yeah, it's a very significant property of like the fabric and cold weather.
Yeah, and I think the last like caveat to this is, we've talked about this before. Like, wind is the thief of the backcountry. Like, it just steals heat away from you. And I have found that these to be extremely adequate for warmth in a ton of situations, with the slight caveat of like most of those times we're moving a little bit, right? So that you're generating heat, and it's just allowing that heat to not get ripped away, ripped right off your body. I would not necessarily recommend these are like pants, like puffy pants, right? They're not like you sit
They're not
in
insulating.
really cold temperatures and do nothing and feel super comfortable, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of to just try to break that apart a little bit. But
so real quick, I want to mention just because there's, some people will only be listening to this when you're talking about the vents. When we kind of just refer to them as vents. Don't think of them as this opening in the pant. What we refer to as the vents, it's a type of fabric we use. So there are panels of this fabric that's highly breathable. It's like an eyelet jersey mesh, but it's not see-through. So we use it in the Skyline Trail shorts. But if anybody hasn't seen those trail shorts, just think of it as a solid fabric that is extremely breathable. It's a knit fabric, so it's inherently got the ability to open up a lot of space for heat, excess heat to escape. And if you do hold it up to light, that's a really great way to see what we're talking about. Is like you can see the mesh structure, but it is not see-through, so you're not exposing.
You got a light inside your pants.
Yeah.
No one's seeing in there.
That's pretty much the only way. So
just keep that phone light off. And
if anybody that is listening has used our Ventus hoodie, one comment we get a lot is like people notice the perforated, uninsulated armpits immediately. Anytime, they'll tell us like, yeah, as soon as you lift your arms up in the air, your elbows up in the air, you immediately feel it. It's kind of like that with this. It's not a perforated fabric, but any kind of air movement, you immediately feel those strategically placed ventilation panels. So the back yoke, the crotch, the out seam down to the cuff, like you get some air movement, you'll feel where that ventilation is taking place.
So we've talked about the two fabrics here. We've talked about the venting. Talk about the stretch of the fabrics for me.
So the fabric is a mechanical stretch. So and it's a very light. So it's a woven fabric that has stretch mechanically woven in and built with the structure of the fabric. So it doesn't have any spandex, and that's beneficial just to save some weight and help the pants dry a little bit faster. But it's I wouldn't call it massively stretchy, and that's by design because oftentimes if you get too much stretch, then you get bounce. Let's say you've got any items in your pocket, you actually get energy loss through the consistent bouncing of the garment itself. So it's got a mechanical stretch built into the fabric.
Okay. So those are the fabrics. Let's talk a little bit about, we'll just start right here at the very top of these. We've got an elastic waist in these, as well as a draw cord that's also an elastic draw cord. So this makes it so it's super fast to tighten them up a little bit and then loosen them up a bit, but you always will have some elastic, a pretty decent amount of elastic in the waist itself.
Yeah.
We tried tie options. We tried some different options. Came to this one. What I love about this one is I like to run it on full loose mode. And then if I put anything in the pockets, which we'll talk about in a second, sometimes that can start to, especially if you're moving pretty good, like it can start to require maybe just a little bit of more tension in the waistband. And so I'll just tighten that up a tiny bit, and then I'm good to go if I'm running my phone and a wallet in my shorts here, or pants here. So, but yeah, just a really comfortable top, and then just really quick adjustment on it. No tying, no messing around with anything there. It's just a quick, you're just quickly pulling on this and giving it a little bit of tightness if you need it. Otherwise, you can run it basically in full loose mode.
Yeah. I think most of the time, most people probably won't ever need to tighten it.
Yeah.
But
I'd agree. Okay, so coming a little bit farther down the pant, let's talk about the pockets. I know this is probably something you guys wish we would have hit on very first. People love pockets. So I really, really like so we've got two front hand pockets we'll talk about first. I really like these front hand pockets. We've added kind of this sharper corner in here. And that sharper corner does a lot for retention of items in the pocket. I think aesthetically they look really sharp. And then, I've seen people wearing even like knives, right? Like they'll use their knife clip right there, and the fits really, really well, stays in place. So, tell me a little bit more about the design of the pocket. And
yeah, I put quite a bit of thought into the pocket.
A lot of iterations.
Yeah, a lot of iterations, dialing in the spacing, the angles, the internal pocket bag, because it all had to fit the overall concept of a trail jogger, a jogger that we want to be putting miles in. And if the pocket's there, we want it to be usable and eliminate as many potential drawbacks or issues as possible. So, I brainstormed maybe, okay, well, it's a trail jogger. People don't want to be losing things. So maybe we put zippered pockets, right? Zippered pockets, I didn't like that idea. Zippers, that creates discomfort on the hip, adds to the weight of the piece, adds potential vulnerabilities,
retention,
and they're just not as streamlined and as usable in my mind for the concept of this product. But I also knew and expected myself and everyone else to probably use the pockets, not just to put their hands in, but to put items in. So I really just wanted to create like a passively secure pocket that had this passive retention that things aren't going to easily work their way out. So obviously you'll see there's no closure, there's no zipper, there's no way to secure them per se. But that's where the angles of the pocket opening and the corner design in conjunction with the pocket bag shape all came into place that things pretty naturally in the resting position in the pocket, when they're moved around, they tend, or they almost are persuaded to stay down versus work their way up and out the side of the pocket.
I think there's a lot of like this knit that's on the inside of this pocket, so that I think of like when I lose stuff out of my pockets a lot, it's too shallow. It's like a slippery, like basketball short material.
Yeah.
You know, there's some of that going on. But yeah, I mean, I wear these a lot in phone keys, you know, stick them down in there and I can wear them, and I've never lost them out of there. So like the shape that you built them in, the material, I think, the opening itself, yeah, they definitely retain so much better than a typical short basketball short, running short. So they're very functional, I would say. And like I say, I can fit a full-sized, you know, pro version of a phone in there with the 3 or 4 lenses they stick on those suckers now, and the massive batteries, like fits in the pockets great. So we also added a pocket on the back, and you'll hear in the microphone that there is a zipper. This is more or less, probably you could just consider this a wallet pocket. And I mean, that's what I'm using it for, but it is zippered. It is super nice. Yeah, like when I'm out on the Colorado Trail, I'm not leaving a wallet and keys and a phone in my pockets the whole time. I'm going nothing in my pockets and everything in the hip belt of my pack and in shoulder straps. But the nice thing about these is it's just versatile. Like I still use the pockets. It's maybe not on long distance hikes, but like sometimes it's close hikes. Sometimes it's local runs or I'm wearing them today at the office because they're super comfortable.
I think and coming up on this podcast, I'm sure we'll talk about some more of the versatility, and that's again built into it. But before we get to that, just like, you know, you said, you're not always using them on long hikes. Well, you got to get to that hike somewhere, right? So you're going from your house, your office, the airport, whatever. People generally have keys, a phone, and a wallet. So that's you hit the nail on the head. It's a wallet pocket, and I would want a zipper on that pocket just so it's got some security.
Yep. Moving down the pant, like I said, we've already talked about the articulated knee, and then we've got the bottom opening cuff here. So this cuff, just to talk a little bit about that, we definitely played around with different heights of the cuff, widths of the cuff. I would say this is a pretty generously open cuff versus some joggers that might be always really restrictive. The nice aspect of having it more open, in my opinion, is one, it doesn't ride up on your calf and then like stick, and then two, allows a little bit of air movement to come down and out of the pant as well. So it's almost like a tapered versus like a true like jogger seal, if that makes sense. That's how I describe it.
Yeah, I think for most people, you know, it's not going to like leave evidence that it was sticking to your
like
ankle,
that red ring around it.
You're not going to get any ring there. It's going to move pretty freely at all times. And again, that's by design. Promotes and enables a little bit of airflow and movement. It prevents a little bit of binding or almost any binding. It's less restrictive. So yeah, we definitely went through some variations of that.
Okay, so let's talk about maybe the last thing we kind of skipped over, which is just the weight of the piece itself. So.
Yeah, and it's fun to talk about, and it's just interesting how well it worked out. You know, we mentioned first, like, we're prioritizing the performance of this piece before anything else, but we ended up with a size medium regular inseam being 6.5 ounces. as a point of reference, our Skyline shorts, unlined, the unlined version that doesn't have a brief liner, is 4.5 ounces. So these joggers are 2 ounces heavier than our shorts, which are also designed to be a lightweight trail short. 2.5 ounces more. And going back to wind pants, okay, on the lightest end of the spectrum, I'd say a 2 ounce wind pant, right? This is a 6.5 ounce jogger that I would say provides 80 to 90% of the benefit of wind pants. But exponentially more usability across a broad range of use cases and conditions. Where wind pants is something that you only want to put on for those really windy conditions and you want to take off as soon as possible. This is something that you can just be wearing, in entire hikes, on entire trips and adventures. And then when the wind does come along, you're going to be almost just as well protected as if you were wearing wind pants, but way more comfortable, way more mobile, way more capable. And then, so another thing we tested out was how well do these pull up over a pair of our shorts? Quite well, so.
I mean, you can't leave your shoe on, right? You'll have to slip your shoe on and off.
Shoes off, yeah.
But they do go right up and over the top of a pair of shorts really well.
And so for the concept of packing these in addition to a pair of shorts, I don't think it's that unreasonable. I think it's quite reasonable for a lot of people's preferences and plenty of conditions where I think it's justifiable to either wear these and pack some shorts or wear shorts and pack those just in case you see the conditions do change compared to what the forecast said. And, maybe you start a hike wearing some shorts and a weather system comes in where it's going to be substantially cooler, maybe have some rain. Then you just put those on and wear them the whole time.
We've talked about this quite a lot. Like both of us have been lately sleeping in the Highline thermal leggings. Still, to me, most preferable sleeping, bottoms that I've slept in. But if you're someone who's like absolutely counting ounces and you're just like, man, I just can't possibly consider this, like consider doing these instead of the Highline thermals almost and sleeping in them. But then if you need them, you've got them, right? And then you can always sleep in shorts or nothing if you need to. But just a really dynamic piece, in my opinion, as far as for the weight, for the ability to throw it on in the evenings and wear it, the last X amount of miles, throw it on at camp and wear it around camp and be really comfortable and take that edge off of cold. You could definitely sleep in them. I've slept in them, and they're quite comfortable. But definitely very, very versatile on the trail.
Yeah, for sure.
And then you talk about off the trail. This is a piece that I have traveled with ever since we started to make them, because whether I'm lounging around a house, whether I'm, just doing like chores or running errands, whether I'm traveling in say an airplane, you know what I mean? Like having the versatility and comfort of something like this. Like I'm taking these more than I'm taking shorts, because sometimes when you're traveling, you're just not thinking or planning well enough to be like, I'll for sure just need the shorts, or I'll for sure, you know what I mean? Whereas these are like, they're about as warm as shorts but versatile as pants, and they take, so it's like just a huge range of use case in these. I wear them to work. I wear them to my kids' athletic events. I wear them traveling. I wear them around the house, hanging out. Just a massive, massive use options in this thing.
Yeah, wearing them on the road, if you got to spend several hours in a vehicle driving, like they're just really comfortable. I mean, wear them to the pool, pull them up over your swim trunks before or after, going for a swim. If you needed to stop at the store after going swimming, you don't necessarily want everybody to see you walking in your wet swimsuit. Like you can pull these up over your swimsuit, and probably nobody would even notice at all. Yeah, a lot of like everyday applicability and usability.
Yeah, I mean, so color-wise, let's go through sizing, then we'll go to color. We're going to offer these in the regular inseam, in everything from a small to a 3XL. And then for the taller inseam, and this is strictly, we just have to do this by numbers. Again, we're a small private company. We can't release a million colors. We just don't have the volume to just have these when 1% of the people order this size. We just can't justify minimums out of factories to do that with our volumes. So for the tall inseam size, we're going to do medium through XL. And so that'll cover 80 to 90% of most orders anyways, like people in waist size, right? So so those are our sizing options here. And then for colors, we're going to have them in this Goblin Blue, which I don't know how you describe this. It's almost like a shale blue, not shale, but like a dull blue.
Pretty muted blue. It's got a lot of, I don't know if you'd say it's got a lot of gray in it or just, it's not a strong or a bright blue.
Yeah, I like it because it seems like it matches things really well, still gives a color option that still feels fairly outdoorsy, but not necessarily just a straight green. Easier to match, really, really sharp looking color. Yeah. And then we'll have this also in what we call a shale gray.
Shale gray.
So 2 color options on this piece right now as we release this. Obviously, the better this product does, the more likely we'll release it in more colors and maybe even more sizing options in the future. No women's sizing specific right now on this product, just men's sizing. But we have had women use it pretty effectively. We'll maybe try to do a little bit more of that too and get some images up of women using this so that we can have those available for women out there that are interested in looking at this piece. And then let's talk about price. So just to be straightforward on this pricing, we design these for performance first. We want these to perform. We want to use really high-end fabrics. We want to use and build them in the highest-end factories, highest-end quality assurance. So we did not cut any corners on these, and we definitely, just even this mesh, not a cheap mesh at all. You'd think usually meshes is one of the cheaper aspects of a build, but for us, it's all about that. But keeping that in mind, we are a direct-to-consumer company, and we are still able to offer these at a regular price of $89.97, which I'm super stoked about. Yeah. This is a piece that, I don't know, we kind of had this debate around the office where it's when you used to just go buy a cotton pair of joggers, that's probably where most people think of joggers in the past, but joggers have come a long ways now, and they're all over the board as far as pricing. But for what these offer and how much I know people are going to use them, and then for what we're putting into these on our end as far as materials and manufacturing and putting in these 4 vents and putting in all of this, it's a sweet price. I'm really excited to do that, and we really wanted to be able to offer them to you guys at this price so that we can get these in your hands, because it's one of those pieces that we know once it's in your hands, it'll stay in your hands. We're betting that you'll continue to wear joggers after you wear this pair of joggers, if that makes sense. So we're really excited about that. Obviously, if you join the Live Ultralight membership, you'll save another 10% on that price. So now you're about $80 into these. So feel free to join that. For those of you that don't know what the Live Ultralight membership is, it's a $10 a month membership that you also get $10 in store credit every single month along with that. It just instantly transfers in, kind of like a savings account. And then you're going to save 10% off year round on everything from Outdoor Vitals, including something like our favorites from other companies, such as food, water filters, cookware, trekking poles, things like that. You're going to save money on those. And on those ones, we'll also give you rebates back. So it's really the cheapest way to buy backpacking food or water filters year round. Tons of other benefits that go into that. But If you want to save some money, obviously join that membership. You never lose $1 because it instantly goes into store credit that you can spend at any time. Then you get year-round discounts. And then we will do a launch special on this as well. So if you're interested in this, the sooner you buy during this launch week, you'll get an additional amount off on these. And so great opportunity to pick a pair of these up and give them a shot. Like I said, when I very first started this podcast, I'm super stoked to launch these. The in the field use has exceeded my expectations by a long shot. And I've just built a ton of comfort and confidence in these over the last 18 months of development.
Yeah. If somebody, any listeners, or especially like subscribing listeners, if you wanted to kind of get like a kind of a real world scenario that was a really good application for this, listen to our Grand Canyon, our recent rim to rim to rim podcast, and pay attention to the kind of the conditions we described towards the end of that hike. I wore the joggers that entire hike, and they were the absolute, for me, the tool for the job. That played a substantial role.
I think we mentioned we both wore the joggers, but we mentioned some of the other guys in the group. Some of the guys were wearing pants, literally dropped down to their underwear because they got too hot.
Yeah.
And they're putting their pants back on because it's snowing on us and hailing on us. They're layering up, layering down. They're struggling to control temperature. I didn't think for 1 second, not a single time, about my legs being too hot or too cold. Not a single time.
No, not at all. And when the snow did begin to fall, it was with massive wind. Mm-hmm. And like, just to give some anecdotal, bullet points is so it was snowing and it was freezing. I wasn't worried about the water aspect at all, right? Yeah. So, that's where I say they were the tool for the job, enabled tons of mobility, breathability, and comfort while blocking the wind, blocking the snow. So these aren't a waterproof pant. They're not meant to be, but they in so many conditions that aren't just torrential downpour are going to provide a lot of protection in those conditions where rain pants just would have been horrendously miserable. Not the right tool for those conditions, even though it was precipitating.
Well, both times it was coming down on us. We were at least for me, I was hiking up
both
at
times,
a rigorous rate. So the amount of heat I'm generating, to put a rain pant on, I would have been instantly a swamp.
Just would have wanted to take them off immediately. Same thing with wind pants.
Yeah, because wind pants, their breathability is nil to zero, and so let's talk about that for 1 second, because I did want to mention that earlier, because we talked about wind in these pants a lot, but what if there's rain, right? Mm-hmm. Or snow? For snow and hail, obviously my experience has been it's going to kind of just shed off them fairly easily. So I'm not as concerned with that. Rain obviously can be a little bit different. And probably my best way to describe how I would view the need, their ability to handle the rain would be if I was wearing shorts and I would feel hey, I want to protect my shorts from getting saturated by this rainstorm, and I'd put on some kind of rain pant or something. That's about exactly how I would treat the joggers, as the same vein. Whereas with pants, I would be even more careful to keep them dry because I know that their dry times are so much longer. Mm-hmm. But with the DWR coating, they'll shed a little bit, and obviously the more you wear them, the more the coating will slowly fade. But I would just treat them like I would treat shorts. If this is a storm that you would cover your shorts up, then I'd probably look at covering these up. If it's not, if it's a 20-minute storm, these are going to dry so fast that I would just weather a 20-minute storm and keep hiking or whatnot.
Yeah, so. For sure. I in my opinion, I'm gonna let the snow, sleet, hail, a little bit of rain, I'm gonna let it land on the pants. I'm gonna try to ride that out as long as I can, and I would do it confidently with these. And of course, I'm going to look up at the sky, and if it looks like the clouds are just sinking down, you can't see any gaps, there's no sign that that's going to break, then just like you said with the shorts, you feel like you better cover up, then cover up when it starts to really rain heavily. But there's been plenty of instances where it was just kind of sprinkling off and on for 20 minutes at a time maybe, and then it'd go 10, 15 minutes with a break in the rain or the mist. In that scenario, these are such a good option because you stay protected, you're not getting wet, but you're so much more breathable, and you don't really have to slow down. You can keep up your pace, and while you're keeping up that pace, your body heat is actually almost pushing back against any like moisture that wants to come in, just because of the difference in temperature between inside the pant and outside the pant. But yeah, that's a good point.
One of the other things, just last thought I had here that we've talked about in the office before is if you're someone who's already hiking in trail runners, these are for you. Like,
yeah, that's
if
good.
you're someone who wants to hike in boots, you might still be a pant guy. Like that's like a real easy differentiator, I guess, in our minds is when we like thought about that for a second. If you're someone who's going in a lighter pair of trail runners and whatnot, like these are the pants you want. These are the joggers you want. It's such an easy fit, easy understanding, I guess. So like use that for what it's worth too. It's just a little reference point. But light, fast, effective, give you a massive range of motion, massive range of temperature controls. Skyline Trail Joggers, just an awesome product to finally be bringing out and releasing to you guys. I'm definitely confident that you guys are going to love them and use them for what they are. And right now, like I said, during the week that we're releasing these, you can grab a special price. So make sure you guys take advantage of that. Order them now and save yourself a few bucks on the order. So, okay, any last thoughts, Brigham, or have we gone
it's
through
good.
almost all of it now? Yeah,
it's a good conversation. Always fun to talk about these things.
Yeah, it's always kind of like, in some ways, it's fun because it's just like, all right, this is kind of like the almost not the bookend because like nothing's ever done being developed and tested and prototyped. Like, but at the same time, it's like it's at least feels a little bit like a closing chapter on this.
There's a sense of a wrapping it up kind of feeling for sure.
Yep. Okay. Well, with that, we'll go ahead and close this up. Make sure you guys subscribe to this podcast for more episodes like this. We've got a whole bunch more content coming. That'll be a lot of fun to bring you along. A lot of stories, a lot of trips, more product developments coming that we'll talk through and really just helping you guys understand products at a different level and peel back the curtains and be really transparent. So lots of fun stuff that we get to talk about on this podcast. We definitely enjoy doing it and having this longer form version. So if you enjoy that, make sure you subscribe. We would appreciate if you share this or rate this podcast. That helps us tremendously. And we'll see you guys in a future episode.